joined today by Breanne Williamson, a hilarious comedian, writer, actor, director, with YouTube hit videos like Coming Out and Aging Out, as well as her own YouTube series, Basement 51. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. What drew you to comedy? You've been doing comedy for a while now. What got you going in the comedy world?
Yeah, so I started with writing, and then I had a friend who was a stand-up comedian basically dare me to do comedy for the first time. She was in town
Mhm.
and she was like, "Why don't you do 5 minutes for me tonight?" And being behind the scenes doing writing for a while, I always thought I'd never actually get up and do it myself.
Mhm.
And I got up for the first time to do stand-up comedy in front of a 500 person room, which was crazy. Yeah, so I kind of just like
Jumping in the
jumped
deep
off.
end, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, jumped off the highest diving board. And then I got the bug. So, then we went reverse and I started doing the pop-ups in coffee shops and bars and wherever anyone would listen to me yap on a mic, and here we are. But the passion for comedy comes from really the experience that some of the best messages in the world kind of get delivered through comedy. I think it's a way for people to get their walls down and kind of hear other people from different walks of life. And it's a really
Mhm.
fun way to talk about some of our darkest times and also some of the brightest. So I just love the medium of comedy in general. And it's definitely one of my biggest passions.
Are there any comedians or comedic voices that you really find speak to you or that you really enjoy?
Yeah, so the first one of the first specials I saw was "Imma Be Me" Wanda Sykes, and I was just blown away, and it kind of opened me up to this whole world of comedy, and I've continued to follow Wanda Sykes on, her amazing career as a comedian and a producer, so I'm just so inspired by her and her voice. I think she's always just been such a light.
Right. Now, growing up before the internet, it was often
Yeah.
hard to find spaces for queer voices
Yeah.
to have a platform. How do you feel like technology, because you've done a lot online, how do you feel that technology has helped you build these spaces and get your stories out?
Yeah. I think it's just such a cool thing that's happening that as a creative with a story, anyone can set up their iPhone and put something out into the world. And that's something that you used to have to wait for a yes to do from one of the big dogs.
Mhm.
And obviously hearing yeses from people in the big offices is great and exciting and the goal in a lot of ways, but it's been a way for me to start learning and developing and making my own projects without kind of sitting in that waiting room for a big portion of my life.
Mhm. Now, when you did coming out, it tackles the sort of the constancy of societal assumptions
Yeah.
around sexuality and gender. Have you find in the last few years that this has been improving at all? Have you felt that there's been some growth since that's come out?
You know what? When it first came out, I felt like it was getting better over time. And over the
Mhm.
last few years, unfortunately, I feel like we're kind of seeing maybe a roll back down the hill.
Yeah.
So I am encouraged more than ever to continue creating because there's this realization that in the same way that I wrote Coming Out, it's not just a rip off the band-aid moment. Okay, we have LGBTQ plus rights. Okay, I'm out and it's done. It's an
Mhm.
ever evolving thing, and there's always a new ear to listen to a queer experience.
Now, you follow that up with Aging Out, which is a rom com about a lesbian couple. What inspired you to tackle that genre as your sort of next project?
Yeah, I grew up watching romantic comedies with my mom. You've Got Mail was one of my favorites, and watching those 90s and 2000 rom-coms, it was just such an escape for me. Even when I wasn't seeing myself represented on screen as a queer person, I was still able to recognize how comforting that genre was,
Hmm.
and I felt like we deserved that as queer people, and it was something that I felt like was missing from my experience in that genre. So I was like, let's just write something that's super comfy and cozy and silly and campy and predictable, because as queer people, we deserve to see these really raw stories online and in traditional media, but we also deserve to see stuff that just feels silly and fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen any of the Hallmark uh,
Yes.
movies? So if the Hallmark industry is getting in on it,
I
it's
loved that. The first switch up that I saw, I think Ellie Liebert is one of the leads in the movie, and I'm so just encouraged and excited to see, like you said, something like Hallmark going in that direction is so exciting. That's
yeah.
amazing because, we deserve the campy, silly stuff too. So I love it. The more the better. I want to
Yeah.
cringe. I want to cringe when I watch rom-coms. That's my goal.
Now, your current project is Basement 51. You just dropped your fifth episode.
Yeah.
Uh, how would you describe it to audiences?
Yeah, Basement 51 is a spooky, campy, sci-fi, comedy first, character-driven web series. It's a hodgepodge of friends and frenemies and exes that get trapped in a basement when aliens land on Earth. And it's this fun experience of watching these folks navigate how they're dealing with this alien invasion, the end of the world, while also as individual humans still wanting the dreams of their life to happen. And I think as human beings, we can also relate to that. For various reasons, we might feel like the world is crumbling around us. And there's still this impulse as individual humans to still want the dreams of our own life to play out. So that's the series, and I'm excited for people to see it.
And one of the things I really enjoyed about the episodes that I've watched is, yeah, that yes, there's an alien invasion going on,
Yeah.
but people are like still recording content and
Yeah.
still messing up their relationships and having these like butting heads, because
Yeah.
that's not going to change just because the world's ending. We're still going
Yeah.
to be stuck in our own processes. So yeah.
Totally. And I think we've seen that, like this is obviously an over heightened and campy way, but I
Mhm.
think we can all relate to that a little bit that, you turn on the news and you're like, this is awful. And oh my God, what's even the point? And then the next moment you're like, oh, but there's this email I really need to send. Or, but I really want to go to that trivia night with my friends. So
Mhm.
there's this constant push and pull as a human being of kind of dealing with the external and also wanting your internal dreams to realize.
So now this compared to your last couple of projects, you broke this one up into a series of episodes. So
Yeah.
what sort of inspired you to sort of break it up into these sort of more bite-sized chunks?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the algorithm is always changing. And I was excited about the idea of longevity of Basement 51, because with both coming out and aging out, it's this big buildup and then this one push out into the world, and you're kind of like, okay, there it is.
Mhm.
So I was excited about seeing how the experience for viewers would kind of unfold over weeks of
Mhm.
releasing this content, and seeing what potentially behind the scenes they would kind of guess what was happening with characters, and in a more traditional way that we see shows play out.
Mhm.
Ironically, we've seen streamers kind of move to where they dump all the episodes all at once. So this is going more back to the traditional way of releasing one a week. And it's been fun to see. It's been fun to see people get excited in between the episodes launching. And this is emulating the end goal, which is us pitching this as a full length show. So I'm excited to see if that might happen.
That'd be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is interesting, like because you see streamers like Disney Plus
Yeah.
who are moving back to that weekly
Yeah.
uh, content, or Apple with like Pluribus
Yeah.
and all of that. And I'm like, I want an episode now, but I'm like, okay, I gotta get. I grew up in the '80s. I've got to remember what it was like, where I had to wait like a week between my episodes
Yeah,
of like A
totally.
Team or something like that.
Exactly.
Now, you also have a podcast, I Can
Mhm.
Explain, with
Yes.
Sean Lusk,
Yes.
where you tackle all sorts of big questions. I listened to a few episodes, and
Yeah.
it was everything from the Kardashians to the change in the cultural zeitgeist currently.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to start that?
Yeah, so it started from a place of feeling like as queer people, there were so many people around us and within our own community that had questions but felt like it was maybe inappropriate to ask them. They didn't know where to go for that information. So we wanted to create a podcast that felt super conversational, like you were at brunch with friends and, talking about everything from the biggest deepest topics to the lightest, silliest ones, like any good brunch has. And,
Mhm.
um, and a space where people felt like they could write in with questions and we wouldn't say, whoa, 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 that's a little too much. Like that feels a little rude to ask. So really nothing's off the table and it's a super fun space that's grown. We have we call them our gabers in our gayborhood over there. And it's really exciting because we have a lot of queer listeners that are maybe newly out or on their journey of discovering themselves. But we also have a lot of listeners outside of the community that just love to hear about the queer experience and learn in a fun and inviting way.
Awesome. Now you're based in Vancouver.
Yes.
How would you describe the Vancouver like comedy and art scene?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Vancouver's a big city, it's an expensive city. So we see a lot of amazing spaces that come and they are gone within a year just because, the building's getting torn down or, another bigger lease comes in. So it's tough. You really got to support the spaces that are there. There's comedy after dark, comedy underground, there's little mountain gallery, all amazing spaces where you can go pretty much any night of the week and see incredible stand-ups get up. And there's some amazing theaters like the Rio Theater that really champion indie arts. But these are spaces that, we need to get out to and buy tickets for because more often than not, we see these spaces come and then we see the unfortunate Instagram announcement posts that they're out the door. So we have a great community of artists, comedians, indie filmmakers in this city, but it's a tough one to survive in. So get out there and support the local arts.
One of the things I've found interesting, Toronto is very similar in
Yeah.
that you can have this venue that everybody likes open up and then disappear.
Yeah.
Um, is if it really feels like we've gone back in a way to the '90s of alternative spaces, back when alt
Yes.
comedy meant literally, yeah, I'm performing in a laundromat,
Yep.
kind of thing. So, it's do you find it kind of a challenge, or like not like a challenge in hard, but a challenge as in something that's fun to rise to in performing in these alternative spaces, and performing in places that, you know 5 years ago people might not have thought about.
Totally. Like, I just last week had a comedy show that was in the back of a mushroom dispensary, and I didn't even know that until I showed up, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, it's through the back door," and I was like, "Is that the staff room? Like, where are we going here?" And it's just funny because you never really know where you're showing up, but in a
Mhm.
way, it kind of adds to the heart of the city. I hate to say it because obviously it would be easier for everyone if there was some, constant brick and mortar spot, but
Mhm.
it's fun to see people get scrappy, and that is the nature of indie film. So it's fun to see creatives be creative, and I kind of love that that adds to the heart of it.
So if people wanted to check out your social media presence, check
Yeah.
out your videos, where could they look?
You can find me anywhere at Breanne Williamson. That's on YouTube, Instagram. And then if you want to check out the new web series, you can check us out on Instagram at Basement 51 Series. And it's free to watch on my YouTube. So you can binge it on the whole playlist. All the episodes are up there for you right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for joining me, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Matt. This was great.